Hi, and welcome back to the Harri and Marcus podcast, which this week is a bit of a sad one because it's a tribute to the late Linda Lewis, who died, what was it, about a week ago now?
I think it's the 3rd of May.
Oh, yeah, I just realised it's in front of me, the 3rd of May, yeah.
Yeah.
Great singer. So we'll just start off at the beginning. She was born Linda Ann Fredericks on the 22nd of September, 1950. And according to what I read on one page, she was known as the Cockney Jamaican Gracie Fields, which I'm not sure if it's a compliment or not. I suppose it must be, yeah. She's born in the Docklands area of the East End and joined the business early, working as an extra as a child, which I believe you know a bit about.
A little bit. I mean, she's worked. Her mother sent her to stage school when she heard her singing at about 3. So she's been singing and doing everything since a really early age. I can't. I haven't got any notes here, but I can't remember offhand the stage school she went to. But I think her first role apparently was playing hopscotch in a movie with Gary Cooper. When he comes up and says, "What's that you're playing?" He goes, "Hopscotch," and he says, "It's the other type of scotch I'm more interested in."
Right, I've got here. It doesn't mention her filmography. It just mentions her TV work. She did a small role in A Taste of Honey in 1961, and it might be a film because it also says she got a screaming fan in A Hard Day's Night.
So she was. Yep.
So maybe A Taste of Honey was the one you're talking about. I'm not sure.
No, it's not. No, it's a Gary Cooper film. Gary Cooper,
right.
Actor.
Right. Okay. Well, doesn't. Yeah. Anyway, her father was a Jamaican pharmacist, and her mother was a British Guyanese jazz singer. And she also had 2 sisters who were in the business, so it's a showbiz family.
Well, at one point later on in the 2000s, I think in the 2000s, they got together as the Lewis sisters. The 3 sisters.
I think that's somewhere way down the page. I saw it.
It will be. It's much later on. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Later on.
According to one note I read, she did a couple of years playing on the road with John Lee Hooker, and was in a club in Southend-on-Sea singing Dancing in the Street with him, and he introduced her to Ian Samwell, who also then introduced her to Don Arden, who took over to manager.
Yeah, it's not quite the that's not quite the story.
Oh, right.
The story was Lily, the mother, dragged her off to Southend to go to see the John Lee Hooker show, and she was determined to get her up on stage to sing with him and his band.
Oh, right.
It was the lunchtime gig, and is 64, so she's about 14. But the mother was very determined and forceful to get her on, and somehow she managed to persuade John Lee Hooker to let her come on stage, and because when artists come over from America, they tended to have a British session musicians backing them and stuff. So the backing band backed her singing a version of Dancing in the Street, and John Lee Hooker quite liked it and suggested she go and see his manager in Carnaby Street, Don Arden.
All right.
and Ian Samuel comes into the picture either at Southend or at Carnaby Street, but that is where they first met.
And next on this list is something I think you know about because we were talking about it the other day. She signed to Polydor and released her debut single, You Turned My Bitter Into Sweet, after changing her name to Linda Lewis in honour of the singer Barbara Lewis, who I've never heard of. But I believe that's a Northern Soul collectible now.
Yeah. It's I've looked at it on well, there's a choice. There was one on eBay for £500, which was a starting offer. It was open for bids, and there's one on Discogs you could buy for about £850. So I've not bothered bidding for those at no moment. But the story, she was signed up with Don Don Arden, and she ended up on the contract with Polydor doing the single, and on the session she had John Paul Jones and Jimmy Page playing on it.
Right.
So she always used to say she had half of Led Zeppelin playing on her first single, and she remembers them both being quite nervous youngsters.
Right. I didn't know that at all. No.
Yeah.
Right. Just running my fingers down.
You heard it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good Motown. So it's a cover version.
Oh, I didn't realise it was a cover version. No.
Yeah, it's a cover version. And about the name, it was Don Arden decided she had to change her name because of Linda Kendricks.
Right.
Who was also on Polydor, I think at the time, and yeah, she liked Barbara Lewis, so she took the Lewis surname, and the whole family did.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
in time.
Yeah.
So
in 1967, according to this, and it may be wrong, obviously, because I haven't double checked it. She formed White Rabbits with Junior Kerr, who was best known as the guitarist playing with Bob Marley, but he went under different names: Junior Marvin Hanson, Junior Hanson, and Junior.
Well, the name is known by is Junior Marvin.
Yeah.
Let's see, the name I knew. I don't know the other name, but she was very much on the London scene. Then from about night when she left home in about 1966. She'd started after the singles failure and stuff. She started being guided more by Ian Samuel, who of course was the rock and roll writer of UK music, because he wrote Move It, and he was in the Drifters.
Right.
Pre-Shadows. Apparently, Linda said in that show we saw that he was sacked by Cliff Richard's dad.
Right.
Whether that's true or not, but he's obviously more influential with getting her gigs, and obviously introducing her to other musicians, and to get into bands, because she's always doing sessions at the Bag of Nails, is it? Or is that
Bag O Nails, isn't it? Or am I got
that
wrong?
Yes. Yeah. Well, something like that. Bag O Nails Club, and some of the other ones all round. I mean, it must have been an amazing scene round there, round Soho and everything. All the music clubs, and Tin Pan Alley round there, which was really thriving, wasn't it, with Elton John and everybody round there, and there's a the little recording studio in one of the music shops there. So it must have been an amazing scene.
Oh yeah,
to be in around that time, because she was knocking around with Jimi Hendrix and people like that at the time. They're all sort of in central London and stuff. So so it was obvious she'd go into a band, and then after the short-lived White Rabbit, she went into to Ferris Wheel, didn't she?
Yeah.
Replaced Marsha Hunt, did you say?
Yeah, she says that she joined them in 1970, replacing Marsha Hunt, and toured Europe with them, and recorded one album with them, Ferris Wheel, and a single, Can't Stop Now, and then the band broke up the same year.
Yeah, the single's quite good. It's not on Spotify. It's one of those. Everyone thinks everything's on Spotify, but there's more not on Spotify.
Yeah.
And other similar, other streaming services are available.
You saying that and sort of deviating from Linda for a second, I saw an interesting YouTube video about a bloke saying about why he collects vinyl, and he did the normal stuff about owning it and reading the notes, and actually did thing about owning a piece of record and everything. But he said the other thing is that exactly what you just said, not everything's on Spotify, and some stuff that is on Spotify, if it isn't getting a lot of plays, gets removed for stuff that is going to get a lot of plays. So he said, if you own a piece of vinyl, you own it and you can listen to it, whereas you can't always guarantee you're going to get it on Spotify.
Yeah.
But going back to Linda, same year, 1970, that Ferris Wheel split up. She was booked by Jeff Dexter to appear at Glastonbury.
Yeah. She was, at that time, she was living in the commune in Hampstead. And Jeff Dexter was one of the people who's living there.
Right.
As well. And he did obviously organise, one of the organisers of Glastonbury, so it's an easy sort of shoe-in for her to get there. So she's featured in the film Glastonbury Fair.
Oh right, yeah.
David Bowie was there, 1970.
Yeah.
You said David Bowie was there.
Bowie famously, because it all ran late, he famously came on at 5 a.m, to about 400 people. I don't know how many people Linda came on to, but it says here that she jammed on her set with Terry Reid and David Lindley. Terry Reid I've heard of, but not David Lindley. Who's that?
Yeah, I think it was, she was going around partying a bit, and she was advised that she was due on that stage, and she was a bit out of it at another time. She was walking through walking to get on stage, and she looked in the crowd and saw a big guy with a pair of bongos. Said, "Can you play those?" And he said yes. So I think she called him up on our stage to join in, and she was jamming her way with Terry Reid, and she didn't know when to stop because she was experienced. She could carry on, and I think she got the hint when all the musicians stopped playing. She'd run the spot, but I think she played there 3 times, didn't she? Went back at least two more times.
Yeah.
To Glastonbury. Bowie must have as well. When did Bowie?
I don't think he did, in fact, because I think I've seen the video of him playing Glastonbury in 2000, and he comes on stage and makes a joke about the last time he was here. There was only
so he did go back. I just said.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did Barry
yeah.
play Glastonbury
I thought you
again?
meant. I'm sorry, I thought you meant earlier on. No, he did go back, but not till he was a megastar back in 2000.
Yeah.
But after Glastonbury, Linda worked as a session vocalist, which led to her appearance on The Possible Projection of the Future by Al Cooper. Famously, she sang on Aladdin Sane as backing vocals on Panic in Detroit, which sort of makes sense because that's got some really high backing vocals. And Cat Stevens' Catch a Bird at 4, and Hummingbird's first album.
Yeah, but they were a bit late. She did her first solo album in 1971. So she wasn't only a session musician.
Oh,
she had contract and recorded her first LP.
Yeah, Say No More, 1971, yeah. Right, sorry, what I've done is I'm reading from the top of the pages without scrolling down and looking at her discography. Yeah, because in 71 she also did a single called We Can't Win, and in 72 she did 2 singles before Rock-a-Doodle Doo, Old Smokey and Reach for the Truth. Apparently Old Smokey has been sampled on someone's thing. Here, the rapper Common sampled it in 2005 on the single Go.
Yeah, that's right. She was working with at least Jim Cregan, wasn't she, at that time? Because he co-produced the second album, Lark.
Right.
With her. And when they were living together, they lived in Chiswick.
Oh, right.
So
local to us.
Yeah.
And then, as we both know, because we were talking about it before, she was signed to Reprise, and then went on to their subsidiary label, Rob.
Signed to Warner Brothers.
Oh, was she?
Sorry.
It says here Warner Reprise. I didn't read it properly.
They put her on to Reprise, which she started off with, and then Raft was set up for Family, and she moved on to Raft.
Yeah.
Because Rock-a-Doodle Doo, her single, was originally put out on Reprise and then switched to Raft.
Right. So obviously, as a collector, you'd want the
I've had it on my want list for several years and not seen a copy yet.
According to this, it got to number 15 in the charts, and Fathoms Deep was doing well, and then tanked because Raft went bust. But apparently, it got a lot of good reviews, and
you've just got Fathoms Deep.
Yeah. I have. It hasn't arrived yet.
Right.
I brought 2. I brought Fathoms Deep and put it here in front of me. What is it? What's it called? Not a Little Girl
Best
anymore.
Of. Not
a Little Girl anymore.
Yeah. Lark was meant to be best early album, wasn't it? I think.
I originally brought Not a Little Girl because it had the 3 singles on it: Schoolyard, It's in His Kiss, and Rock a Roller Coaster. But then I brought Fathoms Deep because it had Rock-a-Doodle Doo on it. But I played. The first one hasn't arrived yet, but Not Little Girl arrived yesterday, and I played that, and it's a good album. But it is very, very pop, not sort of like her early stuff. Is that your friend, all right?
Yeah, he's arguing with you. I think he prefers Lark.
Right. Hello, Doyle. I think he gets a mention every show. According to this, Bobby Tench, vocal and guitarist and sideman for Jeff Beck, played on Fathoms Deep, and it established her as one of Britain's.
What year is that?
1973.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
And established her as one of Britain's most promising young female singer-songwriters. But, as I say, didn't have the expected success. And after the label tanked, she signed to Arista, where she recorded what will become her biggest and breakthrough album, Not Little Girl Anymore, which one we just talked about, which also featured the Tower of Power horn section. And I was looking at it before we started recording to see who wrote the songs. And she wrote a few. Bobby Tench wrote a few. But she's also got one that's co-written by Gwen Guthrie.
Oh, yeah.
Called This Time I'll Be Sweeter.
Yeah.
And obviously had the famous It's in His Kiss Shoot Shoot song. Is it actually called It's in His Kiss or Shoot Shoot song? Because she's got it down here as It's in His Kiss, I think. Hang on, I'm looking for it. Yeah, she's got it down here as It's in His Kiss, and Cher released it as the Shoot Shoot song. Did Cher just add
the Betty Everett one was Shoot Shoot song?
Right.
It was it, I think. But it's around this time after 73 and before It's in His Kiss, when she was at a big party. You know, getting that scene, you know, you go these showbiz dues, these music parties and stuff, and she was queuing up at the buffet. She's quite hungry, and someone came up behind her and said, I'd not give up my lunch for anybody. And she turned around and it was Mick Jagger.
right.
Doing the line from Rock-a-Doodle Doo.
Oh, right. That's
I'd give up. I'd give up your lunch for me.
Yeah.
For you, I'd give up my lunch for you. Yeah,
it's a nice little story.
So there's
I'm just looking. I'm just gauging down and saying it's according to this. See where scroll down to the bottom of the page where the album got to. Not a Little Girl. No, only got to number 40. It's her. According to this, it's her only top 40 album, and it got to number 40, which surprised me. I thought it might have got higher.
Yeah, it's. Did she get the airplay and stuff? I was always interested in her career, but I've got hardly any, apart from a few singles by her. You know, I just wasn't picking up on the LPs which were coming out. I was always interested when I saw her sort of mentioned in places. I always followed, because we've spoken about her for years.
Yeah.
Haven't we? When we hear something, bit of news about her, we talk about her, but the music wasn't really there. I wasn't picking up on the stuff, and now I'm really sad. I wasn't following it more.
Yeah, well, looking down now where at the singles and the placings after Rock-a-Doodle-Doo got to number 15, it was all really low numbers. Play Around got to 53. In 74, Sideways Shuffle got to 58. And then in 75, It's in His Kiss, top 10, number 6. But then...
When was the Old School Yard single then?
75. It was In His Kiss, Rock and Roller Coaster, which got to 53, and Old School Yard, which didn't chart.
Yeah.
I was going to say, then Baby I'm Yours.
Didn't like her version.
Didn't it?
No.
According to this, he actually wrote it for her. I just thought she covered it herself.
But she did her own funky sort of version.
But then it was Baby I'm Yours, which got to 33, and This Time I'll Be Sweeter.
Another cover version, Baby I'm Yours. Another old 60s song.
She joined the Christmas Brigade, and I collect Christmas singles, so I got to get this one. Winter Wonderland she did. That didn't chart. And then another 1, 2, 3 singles that didn't chart before I'd Be Surprisingly Good For You, which again surprised me because I honestly thought that got top 20, but it only got to number 40.
Blimey, yeah. Got loads of airplay, though.
Yeah.
Got loads of airplay. Because
I remember hearing, I was at Needs, I remember hearing it all the time.
Yeah.
Then she didn't have another hit single till 84, which got to 120, and her last single that charted was in 2000, which was was Minefield General featuring Linda Lewis. It's got number 61, Reach Out. So sadly...
I heard that, yeah, it's amazing when you think about her as, compared to some of our other top singers. She had a lot more things going for her. The five octave no voice. But she also played piano. She played guitar. She wrote songs. I mean, how many other female singers of the 60s and the early 70s did that? The next one to come up after Linda Lewis was Jane Armour-Trading.
Yeah, it actually says here that she was overshadowed by Jane Armour-Trading's success, but they were fairly different artists, I think, although I suppose people just basically put them in the same box. They were both female singer-songwriters that were black, but I think they were very different artists.
Mm.
But maybe that's just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't really listened to a ton of Jane Armour-Trading albums. I haven't listened to a ton of Linda Lewis albums, but and it was also around this time she appeared in from between 75 and 78. She appeared on Old Grey Whistle Test, Top of the Pops, Supersonic, The Twiggy Show, the John Miles TV special, the Lenny Henry Show, and Ned Sheridan's Popular Song Show.
And I haven't been able to track it down yet. I haven't really looked at it. Was she in the Fosters?
Oh, right, yeah, I remember something about that, yeah.
I saw a picture of her with Lenny Henry, which was a clip from the Fosters. So I don't know if she just made an appearance or if she starred in it, because she's an actress of course.
I will, while we're talking, I will just click on, how to select. My computer is still run by Steam, so we've got to sort of fill in with a bit of talk while my new page opens. But I'll just check on that. But yeah, well, she appeared on the Lenny Henry Show, so it's quite likely she would have also appeared on the Fosters if she knew him and they'd appeared together. Linda Lewis. Fosters. And now we're both going to be proved slightly wrong. Wonderful things, computers. What did the world do without them? I saw a thing the other day where someone has said on Facebook, would you go back to living in the 70s without...
No way, no.
Without the computers and without... and loads of people said, yeah, I had a great time in the 70s and I'd love to go back there and everything. But I think it was a case of you didn't know any better, did you? There was no such thing as computers, so we didn't know any better. If you were given the choice,
I would do without the mobile phone, which would be horrific for you, I imagine. But I digress.
Well, to be honest with you, right. Yes, she was. She was in Series 2, Episode 4, Take Your Partners.
Oh, so it was just a guest appearance?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. On your list, I presume it's after this sort of time that she went over to LA? She moved to LA?
Yeah, well, after the 77 bit on here where it's talking about her... Oh, no, we've forgotten a major part, the part that we were at. 5th of July, 1975, she opened the Nebworth Festival.
Oh, blimey, yeah, which we were there.
Yeah, we were there. As I was saying to you earlier this afternoon, I remember absolutely sod all about that gig, apart from what I now know is a cigar, but I thought was a bomb, going across our heads for the Pink Floyd set. And as we discussed this afternoon, we now know why we missed half of Floyd's gig set, because they came on 2.5 hours late. But sadly, I don't remember any of Linda Lewis's set. Yes, she opened the show and apparently got all the crowd going, which was great. But sadly, I couldn't tell you what she sang or how.
We were a long way back.
Thinking about it, without remembering it, when she opened it in '75, she just released Not a Little Girl Anymore, and she was going through her pop phase. So I wonder if she played. The set was all Pink Floyd fans, and she actually got them going, and they were all cheering. So I wonder if she sort of played her pop stuff, or whether she played a sort of mixture, old stuff and new.
I'm like you, Harry. Unfortunately, I can't remember, but I know at the time I knew her, and I'd have been listening out all intent to hear Rock-a-Doodle-Doo, and the other singles that I'd heard of at the time. So I'd have certainly paid attention to, because I'd have been looking forward to hearing her. So it's a long time ago, and I've never forgotten. But I've certainly been listening out for. It's like Monty Python were there, and we'd have been listening out for the parrot sketch.
Yeah, I don't even remember them being on. It's according to what I read about it. I read about the gig the other day just to sort of see if it bring back any memories.
I remember it didn't work particularly well.
Well, apparently, when Floyd was 2.5 hours late, Eric Idle came on and tried to get the audience or keep the audience's spirits up, because there was lots of booze and everything, and he didn't succeed. I don't remember that either. But very briefly, we'll touch on the fact of around this time she was married to and split up with Jim Cregan, who was guitarist famously with Cockney Rebel and Rod Stewart.
And Ferris Wheel.
Oh, was he in Ferris Wheel?
Yeah.
Right. But apparently she said that the marriage didn't work because once he joined Rod Stewart, that was the kiss of death, because he was away for, like 9-10 months at a time, and she was out until, and they just never saw each other. But I suppose that is the way of the world in that business. If you're both in the business and you're both away touring all the time and you never see each other, it's going to be really hard to maintain a relationship.
Yeah, it's always difficult in music, especially if you both got different careers in music. Yeah.
And she toured with the Soul Britannia All Stars in 1977. And was sorry. We'll get back to that, listeners, because I've just made the page roll down a whole load. I was in the 2000s then. Sorry. So that was basically it. She was followed. The act that followed her on at Nebworth was Roy Harper, then Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band, then Steve Miller, and then. But by that time,
in fact, Steve Miller. I can't remember anything of any of the acts, but I'd been listening out for the Joker, which was the only song I knew by him at the time, and I'm sure he'd have played it, because we'd have been listening out for the hit singles, because that's what we'd liked back then.
Then she released 3 albums in between 77 and 83. Woman Overboard, which I do remember. Hacienda View and A Tear for a Smile, which I don't.
Yeah. And you need to mention she moved to LA.
Right, I'm going away. I'm
in 81. She was in LA.
Right. So there's a huge gap on this thing I'm reading, because it finishes with Nebworth, and then it jumps to. Oh yeah, it does. Sorry, yeah. It says during the next decade she retreated greatly from public life and moved to LA. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. In 1984, she appeared again at the Glastonbury Festival and recorded for Electricity Records.
Cool. Yeah. Well, when she was out in LA, she had a crazy time out there, and she lived down the road from Rod Stewart and Alana Hamilton.
Oh right, yeah.
What? Yeah. Wife at the time, obviously in different sized houses. He was in a mansion, but she must have had quite a large house, because her friend P.P. Arnold came out and stayed with her. And
right.
She had a little little lodge on her property, and P.P. Arnold stayed there, and they both had a bad time of it. Not a bad time, but it was a mad, crazy time. She was saying in a couple of interviews I was reading, and she's always going to, when Rod Stewart had big dinner parties, she was always invited.
All right, yeah.
She went, and she's thought she'd return the favour one day and invited Rod Stewart and Alana to her place for tea, and she, for dinner, and she didn't know what to do. So she did beans on toast and a bottle of Guinness. And Rod Stewart found it really funny, but his wife didn't seem to see the joke. But that
actually sounds quite funny. She in '92 she was on the Joan Armour Trading album in Square the Circle as a backing vocalist, along with her sister. And in '86 and '87, apparently, she recorded an album with her sisters, Dee and Shirley, as the Lewis sisters. Yeah, so as you were saying earlier. Then she found success in the Japanese charts in 1995 with the record Second Nature, which is often the way for some reason why acts over here find success in Japan but don't have success over here.
Yeah, the Nolans were gigantic in Japan.
Yeah, and obviously Queen made it big in Japan first. There's an article, quite famous one from, I think it's Classic Rock, where Roger Taylor says that in Japan they were treated like royalty and like the Beatles, and there were mobs screaming for them when they go off the plane. And then he came back to his bed sit at 220 Kew Road in Richmond on 50 quid a week. So I suppose a lot of people make it big in Japan first or have success here. And
good name for a song, actually.
What, big in Japan?
Yeah.
I might write one.
Try to write a song around that.
Yeah, I have noticed while looking on things recently, looking up Linda online, one thing that sort of made me smile about, we talked about how young she looked for her age. There's a thing from 2018 where she was guest vocaling with Jim Cregan's band, and they were doing Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile. And there's Jim Cregan, who looks like Roger Taylor, like old man, white hair, white beard, very craggy. And Linda standing next to him singing, and she looks about 30 years younger than him. And she had a great voice.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I'll have to check it out.
I did notice also online there was the Newham recorder that was saying that
that's Newham, East London.
Newham, yeah. There was when she celebrated her 50 years back 5 years ago. When she was 67, they were saying that she was born in Custom House in Newham, and she was talking in the article about when she used to live in squats and everything, and apparently she used to at one point squat with Mark Bolan, and she fancied him at the time, but he wasn't interested, and she said she wrote her first song at 18 and just basically hung around the music business. And she said that she broke the mold being a black singer-songwriter, which puzzled some people, which I was going to say, we were discussing off camera about, why she wasn't bigger. And I don't know if you saw it about 2 weeks ago, there was a thing on TV about Fanny, the female rock group.
Yeah, I remember them at the time, yeah.
And in it, there was Earl Slick talking, and he was saying that they opened the doors for other female, guitar groups like the Runaways and the Bangles and that. But he said the way of the world is that the one that opens the door is always the one that gets cracked on and doesn't get anywhere or gets knocked back. And
I was thinking about that. Black, perhaps not British, but coming through the British charts first. Go back to chart-wise to Winifred Atwell.
Oh, yeah.
It was massive. She's massive. I think she used to write some of her stuff. I think, but she was huge. Then after that you got Shirley Bassey, who did I would say not easy listening, but it was popular early on, but it got less popular later on, the stuff she was recording. But she didn't write anything herself, as far as I know. None of the big hits were. Then you go right on. Then we had Marsha Hunt and people like that. But she's an American, weren't she, Marsha Hunt?
Yeah.
So no, it does actually go through then really to Linda Lewis, unless I've sort of missed anybody. And I'm sure listeners will be doing those, giving a massive list of people we've missed. But that's all. That's all right. Obviously, the other person who came through for British charts was Millie, but she did write My Boy Lollipop.
All right,
didn't she?
I think you've mentioned it before. Yeah,
she came through. She came out. Chris Blackwell brought her over.
I suppose the 60s were more of a, like the Supremes. I can't think now. There was loads of girl bands that were all sort of even right to the 70s and the 3 Degrees that were all.
Well, Linda's first single was a sort of a real take on Motown. You hear the sort of horns section in it. It's now very much Motown.
I was actually going to mention that next. Was in that new thing she was talking about her first single, which was a big hit on the northern scene, and she said "Sideways Shuffle" was written in about 10 minutes in the John Lennon style way. I'm not quite sure what she means by that, but whatever she means, she knows she knows what she meant by it. And and what I didn't also realise that she adopted a baby when she went to America. He's he's now about 35 and he's a musician.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Yeah.
He's also a musician.
Yeah, I saw it mentioned in one of her obituaries, but I couldn't find anything about her having a baby. So, cool. Okay.
She said she adopted in the US because in those days it was really hard in England because her mother was half English and half Jamaican and her father was mixed race. So at the time in England, she would only have been allowed to adopt a mixed race baby. So in America, she could adopt any baby. So that's what she did.
Excellent.
And the other thing I didn't realise that the new recorder said was that her sister is married to the bloke from Bros, Mike Goss. Hang on, is it something Goss?
Luke Goss or Matt.
Now I've lost it. Now I saw it 2 seconds ago. Well, she's a Libra. I've got that bit. Mother. Oh, here we go. She's got 4 sisters, and one of her sisters, Shirley, is married to Luke Goss. Yeah.
Okay.
And she joked that she gave her sisters their first break as her backing singers on Rock-a-Doodle-Doo on Top of the Pops. But she didn't want them to look better than her, so she brought them red dresses so they look fatter than her. So it was she had
that makes it right because the clip of her singing Rock-a-Doodle-Doo on YouTube says it's on Top of the Pops, but it never rung true to me. It didn't look right. I thought it's one of those European shows.
Yeah.
Because she's playing an electric guitar in the YouTube clip, and I remember playing an acoustic on Top of the Pops. So that solves that then.
So now we get on to her later career, which I'm ashamed to say, although we were really sort of into her, talking about her and everything, I didn't really sort of listen to a lot of her later stuff. And I'm looking down now, and after 76, she released loads of singles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 12 singles, which the only one that I recognise the title of is 109 Jamaica Highway, and I couldn't actually name it if I. But and the other thing that surprised me was looking down her chart history. Since Rock-a-Doodle-Doo, she had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 singles that charted, but only 3 that charted in the top 40, and only 1 that charted in the top 10. Rock-a-Doodle-Doo. So she was sort of a well-respected
Rock-a-Doodle-Doo only got to 15.
Yeah, 15, yeah. So nothing in the top 10. And then the next one after that was...
It's in a Kiss. What's the matter?
Oh, yeah, sorry, it's in a Kiss. That's number 6, sorry, yeah. That was the top 10 hit.
That's a biggest hit, yeah.
And Baby I'm Yours was number 33, and I'll Be Surprisingly was 40. And after that, they were all in the 50s.
Which is no surprising. It's a good single, that.
Yeah. I mean, again, we were talking about our dislike for Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice's stuff, but occasionally you'll get one of those songs that it actually is a good version.
David Essex. What a circus that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah.
So I'm probably between us, I'm starting to like the songs from Evita a bit more.
Yep, so it looks like we're becoming closet Andrew Lloyd Webber fans.
No, let's move on from this. Don't want to talk about
that. So getting back onto Linda's later career, I think both of us have listened to some of her later stuff recently. And I must say that although I can't remember all of them, I listened to one today, which was a white label, only released as a white label. And I think it was just called Linda, but that was really good. And the one that she did with Minefield General, is it?
Yeah.
That was quite good. And then I went back and started listening to stuff that wasn't recent, but stuff that I hadn't listened to earlier on, but songs that I knew by other people, like her version of "Come Back and Finish What You Started." And there's another one, I can't remember what it's called now. Not Rock and Roller Coaster. I can't remember now, but she just had a really good voice. I mean, there was someone who on that,
and it wasn't just doing the 5 octaves, because she didn't really do that in every song. It's just a good voice, and she's a really good songwriter to boot, weren't she?
Oh yeah. Someone, I can't remember. I'm trying to find his name now, because apparently he's some music sort of professor or something, said that she actually, her voice sings in the whistling range, which or one of her octaves sings in the whistling range or something, but I can't see it now. But it always helps to. Yeah, no, I can't find it. But anyway, it doesn't surprise me that her voice is that high. And I mean, I don't know what else to really say apart from the fact that as an artist, she was brilliant, and it's just such a shame she wasn't bigger. She said in fact, in that interview with the paper, she said she herself thought she would be bigger if she hadn't have been a romantic. She said that every time she fell in love and moved in with someone or got married, she gave up her career and dedicated herself to being a homemaker and a wife or a mother or whatever. And it all fell apart and she went back to music. And she said that had she just concentrated on music, she thinks her career might have been a bit more sort of constant sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, you've not mentioned the last single, Earthling.
Oh no,
right. Paracosmos, featuring Linda Lewis. It came out in March.
Oh right.
This year it's
Earthling.
Earthling, yeah.
Right. I didn't listen to that one. Is that good?
Cool. It's really good. Yeah. It starts a bit slow, but it's got a really good chorus. That's when she does the sort of the joint no vocals. It's
right.
a bit jazzy and stuff, but it's really good. I've played it a few times, and I really like it. But guess with today's things, that won't even pop in for charts. Will it like others do? Did you see anything appear in the lower reaches of another chart?
I haven't looked at this week's one. I must have a look.
Everything available to appear, ain't it?
Looking down her discography, her last original album that was her own album was 1999, so over 20 years ago, Kiss of Life. But she's had some interesting compilations come out in the 2000s, including one called Hampstead Days, which was 1970s sessions from the Troubadour. That had never been released.
There's a company that a record company that applied to Warner Brothers to re-release some of her old albums, and they started doing that in the late 2000s. I forget the name of the company. I think it's a Colour was in the name, but they certainly did some of the early albums. And there's an album of all the tracks she did on the Reprise label, i.e. Graft and
Reprise. According to this,
and there's that 5 CD collection in 2017.
Right. That isn't down here for some reason. Reach for the Truth, the best of the Reprise years, 71 to 74, came out on Rhino in 2002. Legends came out on BMG in 2005. And I'm guessing that Hampstead Days one with their own release sessions might be on the Troubadour label, because it's...
Yeah.
It says, maybe I made a mistake, though it was the Troubadour Club, because there seems to be enough early stuff out there to sort of dig into and get because I think that a lot of people see her as like It's in His Kiss. Remember the Days of that album that I just brought is very poppy and very disco, and that isn't really what she represented.
No, she's more. I think she's more a little. But she's always a bit, in her actual music, she's a bit folky, weren't she?
Oh yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
There's certainly some sort of some of the later tracks I heard. Had a bit of a jazz feel to it, and particularly that Earthling single is really jazzy, and I don't know how the pair of them duet on the chorus, because it's not a standard chorus, and yet they're both in top time.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have mastered it. You'd have been able to get the jazz vocal.
Me, I was the king of the scat in the 70s. Yep, my voice was famous in Kew, especially when I did my open air concerts on Kew Green that no one ever came to. I just remember that other single that I listened to that someone else did that I was called "Can't We Just Sit Down and Talk It Over." Who did that and had a hit with it?
I don't know.
I know the song, but I had never heard her version before. What we will do, dear listeners, so that you can get into Linda's music, is we will leave a Spotify playlist.
That's your own streaming service.
My own streaming service, yeah. We'll leave a Spotify playlist below where you can listen to some of what we think are, obviously they'll be all our big hits there, but some of the songs that we think are also really, really good. And a link to an excellent interview that Marcus sent me with her hairdresser.
Yeah.
Where she's having an informal chat with a hairdresser while he's doing her hair, and she's bursting into song, and it's brilliant, and it's well worth watching. So I think that is really it from us. I mean, unfortunately, we've lost her, but she's left us a
legacy. Yeah.
Well, one thing I will say, which dawned on me when we were researching this, is that she wasn't given the credit for being who she was, if that makes sense, because all of the things I saw come up, or not all of them, but so 80% of the things that I saw come up weren't Linda Lewis, singer, dies age 72. It was Linda Lewis, Bowie's backing singer, died age 72, or Linda Lewis, backing singer, age 72. Because Bowie's obviously got a bigger name, it was all her.
No, you're absolutely right. I was totally shocked when I heard the news. It was on the lunchtime news, and it didn't make the evening news. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
Maybe I just watched the wrong channel, and the other channel would have covered it. But I thought it just really appalling.
Oh no, I just thought it was really bad that all of the internet things, or 80% of them, thought it was better to put her down as Bowie's backing singer than a singer in her own right, which she was, and a bloody good one at that. So that was it this week from us. Sad one, but I'm guessing next week we may try and do what we said about reviewing some of our singles.
I hope so. Not had many coming through at the moment, but I've got a big pile that we can go through have come over the last couple of weeks, so that'll be something perhaps.
Okay, well,
a lean from chart music to some Beatles records for a change of my now collecting habits, and a bit of Elton John in there as well. So
and obviously a bit of
Sandy Shore,
Philip and Vanessa as well.
Oh, that'd be yours, mate. You've got
Jerry
the promo. You've got the promo. I think.
I have indeed, and I still haven't found my Jerry Monroe, Dennis Waterman album. So there is somewhere.
You had to hide them for safety.
Yeah. No, I hid them too well. Anyway, that was our tribute to Linda Lewis. Rest in peace, Linda.